All right.
7:30, August 11th, 2021. Good evening, everyone. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. This meeting is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic and is in compliance with the provisions of Executive Orders 103 and 104, the Open Public Meetings Act, and associated regulations. Notice of this meeting was published in the Bergen Record on January 20th, 2021, and the Ridgewood News on January 22nd, 2021, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address prior to making a public comment. Members of the public were permitted to submit written comments prior to the meeting via mail or email, which will be read during the public comment period. Marina, could you call the roll, please?
All right. Mr. Mayor?
Present.
Mr. Coughlin?
Here.
Ms. Boland is absent tonight. Mr. Merman?
Here.
Mr. Grasso is absent tonight. Mr. Cray?
Here.
Mr. Erikellian is absent tonight.
He's excused.
Councilman Kanigo?
Here.
Okay. Mr. Gibbons is absent tonight.
He's excused.
Mr. Pfeffer?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
And also for the record, Mr. Costa's here and Steve Lyden from Burgess Associates as our board planner for tonight.
Great. Good evening, all. Our first item of the evening is the approval of minutes. We have a set of minutes from the meeting of June 23rd, 2021. I open it to the board for comments on these resolutions. There being no comments, can I have a motion to approve?
So made, Merman.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is this just for the June 23rd meeting?
Just for the June
Okay.
23rd meeting. Yep.
Thank you.
And Mr. Merman was the first and Councilman Kanigo was the second.
And we can just do a voice vote for that.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Pfeffer was absent at that meeting, but he has watched the complete video recording, so he is eligible to vote as well.
Okay, thank you very much. That said, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Thank you. The next set of resolutions is from the July 14, 2021 meeting. Any comments or questions? Okay, there being none, may I have a motion to approve?
So made, Merman.
Actually, Mr. Merman and
That's right. I was absent. Yeah.
Council President Kanigo were absent at that meeting, so we'll have to have a different motion.
Okay, so Mr. Cray, you were present?
Yep, I'll make a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second? Mr. Esposito or Mr.
Oh,
Pfeffer?
yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay, so Mr. Cray and Mr. Esposito. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain?
Abstain.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, the next item this evening, we're moving into memorialization. The first item is a request from ILBJ LLC, relating to 335 Johnson Avenue, block 1405, lot 3. This relates to a previous application wherein the applicant received preliminary and final site plan approval, bulk variances, and major soil movement approval to permit a salon and office building at the location 335 Johnson Avenue. Pursuant to a resolution of this board dated August 13, 2018. The current extension, which he's operating under, is expiring on August 5th. Actually has expired August 5th, unless further extension is timely granted by this board. A draft resolution was circulated for review, and I open it to the board for comment or question.
Mr. Chairman, do we have anybody representing the applicant? Like Mr. DeVito, I believe was the lawyer.
Yes, Frank DeVito is legal counsel for ILBJ. And because of the time constraints, and again, and again, restrictions on travel, Frank has not been asked to participate tonight. As well, he himself 100% well, and is a little bit slow moving, and he had also been convalescing recently, getting over COVID. So I'm here, I'm one of the managing members of ILBJ, and I come before the board asking for renewal of the approval. Again, I hate to make light of it, but my family has as we say in the racing world, we hit the trifecta, and COVID-19 has knocked all of our family businesses out of the game. Our family restaurant now has been closed since the executive order almost 18 months ago. The convention centers around the country are only now beginning to regain some lost ground and are reopening. And my core business, which is in the exposition industry, has been closed down for almost 2 years. And again, the salon that has been earmarked and hopefully gets eventually put into the building when it is built, under executive order, had been shut down for 3 months and then was restricted to operate at any kind of capacity. For 6 months, we were able to operate at 25% capacity. Shortly thereafter, it was increased to 50% capacity, and only more recently has been lifted that we could operate at full capacity. And that business, again, has been crawling to try and regain some lost ground over the last almost 2 years. And you know, the pandemic has brought to a screeching halt all of my family businesses, and again, any progress or planned progress on the Johnson Avenue project. Coupled with that, you know, the condition that I've just described, we had some other real estate projects, unfortunately, didn't survive, and they have been closed down and have been either sold off or taken, projects taken over by others. So I approached the board looking for some relief and some some leniency in granting us an extension. And this has been a horrific experience for me and my family. And we're hoping on just trying to persevere and preserve what businesses we have and what remaining projects are still viable.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask him a couple of questions?
Could I just ask that you please state your name for the record and provide your address and your relationship again to the applicant?
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Marina. My name is Stephen, Stephen, and my surname is Iannuzzi, Iannuzzi. I'm one of the members of the LLC, and the LLC is ILBJ LLC. And it was an acronym after being that we were on Johnson Avenue. We just thought we would use Lyndon B. Johnson, and we put an I for Iannuzzi in front of it. That's where the ILBJ comes from. But by all means, I'm open. I'm going to try and be as transparent as possible in answering any questions.
And then one other, could you please just raise your hand so we can swear you in, so then any board questions are under oath? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Merman?
Yes, real quickly, I hear and understand and have empathy for your business as a family. But this is really an extension, the way I understand it, for the commencement of construction. And where you're requesting a 1-year extension. And I would imagine, let me ask you this. Do you believe that within the next year, you can actually start construction on this site?
Mr. Merman, right now, we're in the process of buttoning up the TWA application for the sewage connection and the water issues that are present on the site. Again, we can only move as fast as we are able vis-a-vis given the restrictions on what contractors are available, what subcontractors are available, what materials are readily available. At the end of the day, are we prepared? Part of the issue that we've been trying to contend with is we had, again, already a very, very strong indication, a positive nod from 3 banks that were supporting the project prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. One was Investors Bank in Hackensack, the other was TD Bank, Toronto Dominion, and the other was Wells Fargo. All 3 institutions gave us very, very favorable indications of what they were willing to do and how they were willing to participate. And again, after 1 year into the pandemic, and again, I'm following up in meetings with them, and the answer is, Steve, we'd like to revisit the project and revisit what the intended use is because of the economic climate and the glut of both retail space and office space there is in and around the project. We said, well, listen, we're going to persevere. We're doing everything we can. We've kept all our creditors happy. There's nobody waiting in line to be paid on the project, and so on. There are still some dominoes that we've got to knock over one after another in order to move the project forward. And I wish I had a crystal ball, Mr. Merman, to tell you that we can start in 30 days, but I can't say I can start in 30 days. But what we are going to do is we are going to do everything that's within reason and within our capability to move things forward so we can start as soon as possible.
Mr. Costa, are you on the line?
You're muted.
Mr. Merman, I'm here. Good evening, Chairman. Good
Okay.
evening, members of the board. Yep, I listened. I spoke to Steve, I guess a few weeks ago. Steve, how are you?
Good. Hello, brother.
That he needed he was requesting an extension on this. I personally have no problem with it, but obviously it's up to the board whether or not they want to grant the extension.
No. Mr. Costa, my question to you is the applicant refers to obtaining the sewer permits. And I would like you to, if you're possible, to discuss that, especially who is holding up the permits, if that's really the case, whether it's the town, the county, or other people.
No, the treatment works approval would be, again, it's on them. The onus would be on them. But my understanding, that was done a while ago, Steve.
Right. Robert, the TWA has recently been in touch with me wanting additional information on the application. And again, because of COVID, I'm going back, it's got to be almost 20 months ago, We were, again, in consultation with that office. We were told that there's no hurry to finish that application. So again, I'm going to go back maybe 30 or 45 days when we started to see daylight at the end of that tunnel. I was in touch with them personally and working to finish or complete that open application. I was given a green light by them and saying, Steve, don't do anything in haste. You're fine. We're good. When you can complete it, then please contact our office and we'll process it.
Yeah,
So
I know-
that's-
Chairman, I know one of the, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I know he recently retired, but he used to handle all the treatment works approvals for our area DEP. I believe this is the first week that there's people in the office, I think 2 days a week now. So it's been very difficult to get permits from the DEP.
Yeah,
We have a
as a
couple
matter of
of ours
fact,
that are pending, and even when you have the 90-day rule, it's been going in excess of 90 days.
Robert,
couple
as a
them
matter
haven't
of
been doing
fact,
recently.
Robert, the guys there now are very, very young guys and they're all new guys.
Right.
Nobody there has any type of, what's the right word of previous experience. Okay. And they're very green.
All right. I mean, Steve, if you need any help with this, just call my office tomorrow. You're more than welcome to come in and if you need any help from the borough, certainly there'll be no problem. We'll certainly help you out.
I would appreciate that, Mr. Costa, and I'm sure the rest of the board is feeling the same.
Okay.
So you'll help expedite any from the borough's side, any sewer permits.
Yeah, unless it's stale, that was signed by the mayor. There had to be a resolution. And again, I think it's the former mayor. I don't think it's Mayor Tom that signed it. I think it was the former mayor. But again, if it has to be updated, a new resolution,
Yeah,
just
okay.
contact my office tomorrow. I'll speak to Lisette and we'll get it in motion to get that done.
Steve, do you have
Alright.
professionals engaged that are working with you on this project?
Chris, I can hardly hear you for whatever. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but it's difficult to hear you.
Yeah, I was asking Steve if he's got the professionals engaged right now that he's working with on the project, aside from Mr. DeVito as his counsel.
Yeah, well, right now, at the end of the day, we have, again, the two what I consider to be the leading engineering firm in the county, and also one of the very well-known architects. John Montoro was the lead architect, and there was some subcontracted architect that specialized in the retail space, in the spa and salon industry. And the other engineering was Burton Engineering, again, one of the leading firms. And Bob Costa's firm has been, tied to this project from the very, very beginning. And all of the constructive criticisms that came out of Robert's office, we took very seriously. And I'm sure Bob would remember many of them.
Mhm.
That question, clarity on this. This is an extension off of the original approval. There has not been a previous extension, has there?
Yes, there was one extension last year for a year, so this would be the second 1-year extension.
This is an extension.
Yes.
Well, there was also an extension by Trent.
So
I believe-
the
For
extension,
COVID.
yeah, the extension that the board granted was for 1 year until August 5th. But based on the Permit Extension Act passed in the state, that permit automatically is extended for 6 months after the date, because the permit was issued, or the extension was issued during the COVID pandemic. So this is just to permit the applicant to get the additional 6 months on the back end to get another full year.
It looks like it's being extended until a full year, August 11th of 22, I believe. Isn't that what the proposed resolution says?
Yes, but if the board didn't do anything, the applicant would still have 6 months of an
Okay.
extension.
All right, got it.
And I
I'd like
imagine,
to hear comments from some of the other members.
I imagine, Mr. Iannuzzi, you need this as well for purposes of obtaining your construction financing.
There's no question. And again, what, you know, the fly in the ointment right now is, again, the resurgence of the pandemic and what it may or may not do. And it's anybody's guess whether or not the CDC in their prediction that says this spike will fizzle out in 45 days. And we all know, you know, what happens in 45 days, and 45 days passes like a week. And we need to have, again, the window of opportunity, because we have to go and we have to do the carousel with the banks again. And they're going to look at all of the economic indicators, including, you know, what are, you know, where have rents gone in the retail market? You know, I know some of my businesses in Paramus were, you know, including rental fees and CAM and taxes, they were up in the low 50s combination rates. Today, they're, you know, the rental rates are down at 20. Okay, and in our financial model, when this project was put together, again, it was a vast difference, a radical departure from where we are today. Somewhere closer to where we were, again, back in 219 and 220. But yes, we have to have opportunity to go back to the banks. And in many cases, we may have to make modifications to the actual structure itself to try and cost engineer it to bring some costs down, to make this as viable today in today's economic climate as it was, you know, almost 2 years ago.
Well, just be mindful, any modifications of the project, you know, we may have to come back before.
No, of course. No, I understand that, Mr. Caseland. At the end of the day, we may have to, again, to try and bring the financial model, you know, better aligned with the economic climate today, because it's a far departure from where we were pre-pandemic. We all know that.
Oh, fair point. Let me open it up to Mr. Esposito. Any questions from you?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Councilman, any questions from you?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. My screen keeps changing. Mr. Craig?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And Mr. Pfeffer?
No, I don't see this as controversial at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Merman, any further?
Yeah, I would love to see the project go forward for the not only the benefit of the client, but the benefit of the community. And I'd like to say, yeah, hey, let's go for another year. And if you can't bring this project in another year, then maybe we got to start looking at, or you got to start looking at somebody else who can, because at least for the borough purposes, okay. That's beginning to look like an eyesore down there. And the borough has extended a lot of time and all into this, as you have. And I would think that if you came back in another year, you might fall upon a deaf ear on this side.
Okay, Mr. Merman, I could appreciate that, and your criticism is well received. And behind our Plan A, of course, we do have Plan B and Plan C, and we are already, as you indicate, we are not sleeping, on this. We've already had, very active meetings with potential or likely organizations, investors, builders that may want to join me and my family in the completion of the project. We know we can't keep going back to the well. It's more than obvious. Again, you have to please be sensitive to the fact that I don't think any of us have ever anticipated being where we are, okay, after an 18-month COVID-19 pandemic, and now looking dead in the eye, an extension of this whole situation, possibly until the end of the year. So, again, we have far too much money and time and our goodwill, our name into this project for us to let it sit and become a dead project. And again, I want to be as transparent as I can with everyone. Okay. And believe me, we're very, very active in trying to get this thing back on track.
Okay,
All right. Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Mar-
just ask that we need a motion to grant the extension and then a motion for the memorialization as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, so may I have a motion to grant the extension as proposed in the resolution?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, I think we had Mr. Pfeffer as the first and Councilman Kanigo as the second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
yes,
Okay, the motion passes and now we'll do a motion on the resolution.
Okay, may I have a motion for memorialization of the resolution to extend the approval for ILB?
So moved, my friend.
Mr. Cray, thank you. Second,
I'll second.
Mr. Esposito on the second.
I'll do a roll. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes,
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for your time this evening, Mr. Iannuzzi.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
yes.
Okay, our next item on the agenda for this evening we're moving into the completeness review section. The first application is Betsy Grosser, 68 Wayne Avenue, Block 814, Lot 21. This is a proposed expansion to an existing driveway of approximately 172 square feet to increase the improved lot coverage and increase the total coverage for which variance relief is being requested. We have Steve. Mr. Behrens is on vacation this evening. Steve, I understand you're stepping in from this evening. Good evening.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, and thank you for having me. Both Mr. Behrens and I have looked at the application and the supporting materials that were filed for this particular application at 68 Wayne Avenue, and we find it sufficient for completeness sake and recommend that the board consider the application on its merits tonight.
Thank you, Steve. Marina?
Prior to the meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant and deemed them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. May I have a motion to approve complete?
I'll make the motion, Merman, that we accept the completeness of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
Second, Cray.
Mr. Cray, thank you.
Okay, I'll do the voice or the roll call. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo, I believe is ineligible to vote on this application because he was listed on the 200-foot list.
Oh, okay. Abstain then.
And then Mr. Pfeffer
Yes.
and Mr. Esposito.
Yes,
Okay, the application has been deemed complete.
Okay, thank you. The next application for completeness review is Narmadan Kumarasamy. I apologize if I mispronounced either of those names. 364 Valley Road, Block 905, Lot 27. This is seeking lot coverage variances for a variety of proposed improvements. Steve?
Yes, both Mr. Behrens and I did review the application for completeness and believe it is the materials submitted for the board's review are adequate to allow the board to continue. And our recommendation is that the board convene a public hearing on this application at tonight's hearing.
Thank you, Steve. Marina?
Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicants and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Questions from the board? Okay. There being none, may I have a motion to approve completeness?
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes,
All right,
Okay.
the application is deemed complete.
Thank you. The next application for completeness is Asan Breton, 17 Elizabeth Street, Block 1407, Lot 2. This is seeking approval for construction of additions to an existing single-family dwelling, variance relief for front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks. This particular property is located in the C2 commercial zone and constitutes an expansion of a non-conforming use for which a D2 use variance is being requested. Steve?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Barron's and I both reviewed this application and the materials submitted in support of it, and believe that the materials are sufficient for the board to review the application on its merits, and we recommend that the board do so at tonight's hearing.
Thank you, Steve. Marina?
I also reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant prior to this meeting and found them to be sufficient for the board to have jurisdiction to hear the application tonight.
Okay, thank you, Marina. Questions from the board? Okay. May I have a motion to approve completeness?
so made, Mr. Chairman, Merman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
I'll second.
I think I had Mr. Cray on the.
Yeah,
on the
I think so.
Second for Mr. Cray. Marina?
I'm quick at Jeopardy.
Okay. For this application, since it involves a D variance, the mayor and councilman are ineligible to participate or vote. So I'll take the roll. Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Here,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes,
All right, the application has been deemed complete.
Okay, thank you, Marina. That brings us into the new business category in our agenda this evening. I'm going to take us slightly out of order. I believe Mr. Bruno is in attendance. So is that? Let's see.
Yes, yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Okay, I see you. Good evening, Mr. Bruno.
Good evening.
Before we get started, this is related to Asan Breton, 17 Elizabeth Street, Block 1407, Lot 2. Mr. Bruno, I understand that you may have intentions to have this carried this evening. Is that correct?
Well, I think we only have 5 members of the board who are eligible to vote. And I know that Mr. Breton is on the call, but I don't think I think he texted me and said he's having trouble getting on. But also his professional planner was not available for this evening.
Okay.
So that being said, especially since we have 5 instead of 7 members, I would think it would be prudent to carry until we have more members, unless the board would like to hear my architectural testimony, which I'd be happy to provide.
Well, why don't we hold off on that? Marina, can
That's
we?
fine. So because this is a D variance, in order for the application request to be approved, it would require 5 affirmative votes of eligible members, there are only 7 eligible members for this combined board that would be eligible to vote on a D variance. So that would not, so the mayor and councilman could not participate. And tonight we only have 5 eligible members to vote on a D variance. So the applicant can choose to carry to have a full complement of the 7 members, hear the application at a later date. We just ask that the applicant waive any and all time periods for the board to act on the application once it's carried to the later date.
Okay. Hassan, did you, are you on now?
I am here. Sure.
You would, so just to confirm, you would like to carry the application to the next available hearing or meeting date, and you waive all
Yes.
waive all timeframes for the board to act?
Yes, if I can, please.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer the applicant a suggestion, if I might.
Go ahead, Steve, please.
Thank you. Right now, we have architectural plans by Mr. Bruno, and we have a site plan. And there are some subtle differences between the 2 plans. Specifically, the rear yard deck is not depicted on the site plan drawing that is shown on Mr. Bruno's drawing. So in order to avoid any confusion or delay at that future hearing to be held, I would suggest that the 2 plans be brought into conformance. And further, if a deck is shown now on the, to be shown on the site plan drawing, I would just ask them to check the zoning table and make sure it's accurate. So again, to avoid confusion and potential delays.
Mr. Lyden, yes, I will speak with Mr. Lantelm in the morning and have him align his site plan with the architecturals, because it is the intention to have a stair with a platform at the rear entrance to the home.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruno. One last question, if I might, since you're here, Joe.
Sure.
The cellar entranceway, the Bilco doors.
That will go away.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very much.
that will go away. And since I haven't been sworn, I won't do it. I won't make any other commentary on that. But yes, I think they had rushed through it and didn't pick up everything that I had changed. So I will speak to them in the morning, and we will get that to Mr. Alter in plenty of time for the next meeting.
Yeah, it's all good. I wasn't meaning to embarrass anybody or throw anyone under the bus.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I was prepared to testify to that anyway, and I had the the numbers changed on the zoning chart for the purpose of my testimony, but since we're carrying the application to the next available meeting, it would be prudent to have Mr. Lantelm revise the drawing, and we'll resubmit.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, if any of the numbers change that from what was noticed, then the applicant will have to re-notice for if there's any changes in what is going to be requested.
Well, would that be true, since I believe the notice did have the statement that any and all additional requirements brought up at the meeting would be
Well, if the applicant is changing what he's requesting, then they'll have to renotice. But if the applicant isn't changing what they're requesting, then you won't have to renotice. We can just carry it by on the record today.
I see. Yeah, because I believe Mr. Alter did have that in the notice, that any and all additional requirements would be included.
Yes, if there's additional requirements of the board, that's fine. But if there's changes that the applicant is making, then you'll have to renotice.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Marina, we'll need a vote to carry?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the carry of this application.
So made, Merman.
We have a second?
Second, Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Craig.
And we can just do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain?
Just the council president and mayor are abstaining.
Abstaining.
Yes,
Abstain.
thank you.
Can I interject that the next available meeting is September 22nd?
September 22nd, 2/2?
Yes, that's the next available meeting,
Right.
because our next meeting on September 8th already has 3 applications, including another D variance.
Okay, so September 22nd. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Mr. Bruno.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, we'll go back on to agenda.
Hey, good night.
Good night, guys.
All right.
Good night. Our next item of new business is Betsy Grosser, 68 Wayne Avenue, Block 814, Lot 21. This is a proposed expansion of an existing driveway. I believe the applicant is here this evening. Yes.
Hello, yes.
Good evening. Marina?
All right, so I'm just trying to get organized.
Okay.
So whoever's going to be testifying, could you please state your full name for the record, spell your last name, provide your address, please.
Sure. Betsy Grosser, Betsy Grosser. My address is 68 Wayne Avenue, River Edge, New Jersey, 07661.
Okay, and is the gentleman next to you also going to be testifying?
Yeah, he.
I could be.
Okay, all right. You
I'm
can speak.
Matthew. Yeah, I'm Matthew Grosser, Matthew Grosser, also at 68 Wayne Ave, River Edge, New Jersey.
And the mayor actually married us. So hi, mayor. Thank you for that.
That's great. And so if you could please both just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great. And do you have anyone else here with you for the application or just, okay, then you can provide a background to the board, an overview about what you're requesting.
Sure. So hi, everyone. We appreciate you hearing us tonight. So we bought this house in October 2019. That's when we moved in. And it is across the street from Cherry Hill School. So we are right up on the corner of Wayne and Bogert. We're one house in. With both of us working from home now because of the pandemic, the driveway has become a bit of an issue for us, mainly because of how busy our street actually gets during the school year. We actually had one of our cars sideswiped because on this corner right here, it's just very tight when parents are coming to pick up their children. A lot of teachers park here. We always have cars parked on both sides of our street. That being said, we really would appreciate having a driveway that would enable us to park next to each other so that, if we both want to park our cars in our driveway, nobody has to move. We don't have to really think about it. We just kind of want to be able to live and go and not have to have the other person. So that's the background. And we're really just looking to extend it out enough just for our 2 cars to park side by side. We are not looking to change the lip or the sidewalk or the curb. It's just the actual driveway itself.
Okay. Thank you for that summary. Let me open it to the board. Mr. Esposito, we'll start with you.
I have no problems with that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pfeffer.
No comment, no objection.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Cray.
Just one, so currently you have like one car that you park in the driveway, the other on the street. So now you'll be able to take both cars off the street. Is that the?
Yep.
Yeah.
No questions.
Okay. Councilman?
I can't vote because I'm within 200 feet, but can I speak?
My apologies.
No, that's okay, but can I speak?
You would have to speak during the public portion if you'd like.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I think that there's a public benefit to being able to get both cars off the street, especially on Wayne where it's a little bit narrow. I'm a little concerned about the side yard number 2 moving from 5.1 to 3. But if the neighbor doesn't object, then I don't see that as an obstacle. So I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve, I may have jumped the gun a little bit, but any input from you?
No, Mr. Chairman, I have no questions either.
Okay. Mr. Merman?
Yes. I can see the hardship. It is a very extreme hardship in my viewpoint, when we have all that parking on your street. And it's kind of hard to see how you haven't survived without the second spot on your property. I wholly approve, and I do note that your application shows that there's no change to the curb, which doesn't affect the parking itself per se on the street. I wholeheartedly agree and approve of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. I too have no issues with what's being proposed. I'm familiar with the street as well, so I understand your predicament. At this time, I think we'll open it to the public for comment. You have a motion to do that, please?
Just need a motion.
Sorry, we lost power for a second, but we're back on my phone.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I think we were looking for a motion from the board to open to the public.
Oh, so moved. Mike Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Second,
Thank you, Mr. Merman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? I know the councilman is abstaining from this, is not part of this application. Okay.
Yeah, abstaining.
We're now open to the public, councilman, at this time. So I understand you may have make a statement.
I think that the Councilwoman Kaufman might have gotten booted off the meeting.
Yeah, I got booted off. I got booted off because I lost power in the house and I'm back on my phone now and the power just came back on, so.
Okay, I'm not sure who is now the host of the meeting. I think it's the mayor.
I think so. I see one hand up, but let's hear from Councilman Kanigo first, and then if Councilwoman Kaufman doesn't go back on, I'll allow the attendees. Go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Kanigo, you can state your name and address for the record.
I think he's frozen. All right, let me see. I see Cheryl Sage has raised her hand, so I'm gonna allow her to talk. Cheryl, are you there?
She's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Cheryl. You may want to unmute your mic.
We'll give Cheryl a few more moments.
There
Yeah,
it
I
is.
think
No.
the mayor, you can ask to for Ms. Sage to unmute.
Yes, Ms. Sage, if you can unmute, that would be great. She did have her hand up from the very beginning of the meeting, so I don't know if she's necessarily wishing to speak to this issue.
Yeah, Ms. Kaufman, did Cheryl Sage give you any indication of which application she was here for this season when you?
Sorry, my computer just crashed because of the lightning, so I'm back now, kind of on my phone. So, hold on a second.
She's emailing me that she's having difficulties, but she does want to speak.
Okay.
Perhaps Councilman Kanigo, do you wish to speak at this time?
Yeah, hopefully I don't lose power again. I just wanted to say hello to the Grossers. I'm your behind you neighbor. So we haven't met yet. And I agree with everything everybody else has said. I think the wider driveways are a necessity in this town. It helps to get cars off the street. I get the same parking issues that you have, Betsy, here on Windsor. We have all the teachers parking, so I understand perfectly. I'm fortunate enough to have a double driveway, so I concur. So I certainly think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I know that.
Thank you. And hi. Yeah, we've seen you and we also lost power and are back on our phones, so that makes sense.
Okay, Cheryl has dropped from the attendees list at this point. So I don't know how we should proceed.
I also see two people who called in on their phones.
Yes, but they haven't raised their hand yet or put anything in the chat. I think we should probably give Cheryl another 30 seconds to a minute to come back
Yeah.
on.
So if you'd like to participate on this application in the public portion of the meeting, you can press *9 on your phone or press the raise hand button on Zoom. Okay, we have. a
Okay, we
phone.
do have somebody, Michelle, do you see them? Can you control that? 201-981-2204. And Cheryl is also back.
One second. Sorry about that.
You just sent her the link again and the phone number.
Turn this off. Turn off the Zoom meeting. Okay.
Well, Gregov and
Cheryl, would you like to speak now?
I'm working on it.
Cheryl, would you like to speak now?
She's muted. Maybe she doesn't realize it.
Yeah. Okay. Cheryl, if you could unmute.
So you can unmute by dialing *6.
Oh. The telephone just, there we go.
Yeah, I added them as
Can
well.
you hear me? Can you
Yes.
hear me? You can hear me?
Yes.
This is Cheryl Sage.
Okay, could you please state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record, please?
It's Cheryl Sage, Yvonne Wolf, 379 Fifth Avenue, River Edge, New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. And you can state your comment.
I'm just wanted to talk about the Kumarasamy extension in the back of my mom's house.
Okay, this is not the public comment period for that application. This is the public comment period for the Grosser application.
So when is it for them?
We'll call that shortly. So sorry about the
Okay,
confusion.
that's fine. I will hang on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have, there's one other phone number, 0125. They do not have a hand raised, it looks like. All right. So, all right, we'll deem that to be someone who's not interested in speaking on this particular application. That said, may I have a motion to close to the public?
So made, Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstain? Okay.
Abstain.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. May I have a motion to approve the application at this time? Mr. Merman?
I'll make a motion that the land use board approve the request of 68 Wayne Avenue, block 8141.
Oh, they're
lot.
still not on the Rossi? Is that the deal?
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Mr. Merman.
Okay. Lot 21. the Grocer residence, and that the board, after consideration, approve the requested variances related to driveway expansion.
Second,
I think the second came from the mayor.
it did. I'm having a little problems with my camera, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so Mr. Merman made the motion. We have a second from the mayor, Marina.
Okay, and just for the record, Mr. Pfeffer and Mr. Esposito will have been seated tonight to vote on applications due to the absent members of the board. So their votes will count
Thank you.
as if they were regular members. Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes,
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay, great. The motion passes.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
good luck with
Thank
that.
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate it.
Driveway.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
happy
Okay.
parking.
All right. The next item up for this evening, which will also be the last one, is Narmadon Kumarasamy, 364 Valley Road, Block 905, Lot 27. This is seeking variances for a variety of improvements being proposed. Believe the applicant is in attendance this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here with my wife, Rusta Kumarasamy.
Okay.
Mr. Kumarasamy at 364 Valley Road, River Edge, New Jersey, 07661.
Okay, could you please, I'm sorry, just state your names again, spell your last name, and then we can swear you in.
Sure. It's Rusta Kumarasamy, Kumarasamy, at 364 Valley Road, River Edge, 07661.
And this is Narmadon Kumarasamy, Kumarasamy, at 364 Valley Road, River Edge, 07661.
Okay, great. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, thank you. And do you have anyone else with you tonight for the application?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you. So you can provide just an overview to the board on what you're seeking and any other details about the application.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. We would like to present the reasons as to why we're requesting this variance, and I'll try to be brief. Basically, we'd like to expand our current deck, add a shed and a walkway from the shed to the front yard. In the last 18 months, our priorities have shifted greatly. Our work schedules have always been hectic as healthcare workers, but when we're home, we've realized that we want to spend most of our time outdoors, and it's invaluable to us, to our family. Our goal is to create a safe space in our backyard for our 2 children and my parents, which includes my mom recently, who was injured as a nurse and she's partially disabled now. So we're trying to make the backyard more accessible. Another thing to note also is the backyard is not level. It kind of slants up. It has a slight grade to the point where the current backyard table, which is on the grass, is tilted when we're sitting at it. So for the deck, we're trying to create a multi-tiered structure so it decreases the amount of steps needed to get to the grass. Because currently we have 5 steps exiting from our patio door to the grass. And I'm always scared when my mom and toddler go out to play. The second thing was a pool, which my mom's physical therapist recommended. We thought it was a great idea. So, and if we put a deck to attach to it, she can go in easily and out. And with children, I'd really love to be able to put 2 gates and alarms there. There's shed we requested because we want to accommodate the growing family. We're running out of garage space due to equipment for my mom and my children. So to make the shed accessible for equipment with wheels, we wanted to add a walkway because that area doesn't have any sunlight, so it gets muddy after rain. And well, it's just a huge mess whenever I bring things in the backyard on that side. My husband's gonna talk about the technical numbers.
So in terms of the technical specifications, the deck we propose is going to be a multi-tier deck. Our existing deck is at a height of 30 inches from the ground. It's approximately 4 by 6 feet. We want to expand that to 14 by 28 feet for a total of 392 square feet. Directly attached to this would be a small pool deck, which would allow easy access to the pool. This is an above-ground pool, and this would require the deck to be at a slightly higher height of about approximately 48 inches. This pool deck would be about 12 by 6 feet for a total of 72 square feet. The pool deck would be gated off with an alarm for obvious safety reasons for the children. We wanted to attach our main deck to a lower tier deck, which would be separated by 2 steps. This lower tier deck would be at a height of approximately 14 inches and measure 11 by 22 feet. The lower tier deck would allow us to reduce the overall number of steps needed to get to the ground, as the property does have an uphill grade in the backyard, and also allow us to minimize any deck railing which may obstruct our view of the backyard when children play. I also wanted to point out that the deck will be created with a composite wood, AZEC, and this will easily allow any water to drain into the ground below it. So the deck, in my mind, should not be considered as an impervious surface. The shed would be 10 by 12 feet for a total of 120 square feet. And the side walkway would be a total of 4 by 77 square feet, for a total of 308 square feet. This would bring our overall improved lot coverage to 48.5% and the lot coverage to 35.1%. And in speaking to Ed and Tom, we realized that this may be more than the board is willing to allow for in a variance, and we're more than happy to make adjustments to our plan to help satisfy the board and also to satisfy our own property needs.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Steve, I'll turn it to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've heard the testimony, and I think the question that remains in my mind is, even if the board were to provide the property owners with all benefit of the doubt, it's still a significant departure from the zoning ordinance. And I wonder why 3 particular decks, especially of this size, are required to accomplish the objectives that the property owners mentioned, especially when the proposed decks extend beyond the rear sidewall of the dwelling. So I think that is somewhat troubling from a zoning perspective. The other thing I would wonder about is the walkway from the driveway to the shed is rather extensive. I understand there may be some need to provide some access to the shed, but I don't know that the access needs to come all the way from the front of the house and from the driveway. And I also wonder if the shed needs to be pushed that far back to the corner of the property. If it were closer to Valley Road, a walkway could be shorter, or a walkway, or if the shed were located to the other side of the property and it came from one of the decks, all that impervious wouldn't be necessary. And I'm new to the board, so I say this with all due respect, both to the board and to the applicants. The testimony we heard really didn't address the criteria that the municipal land use law looks to be addressed. It really addressed personal issues. There was some moment of physical features testimony when there was a mention that the rear yard wasn't pancake flat, and there was a second slight mention of physical features when the applicants talked about a lack of sunlight in the one portion of the property, which could sometimes lead to muddy conditions. But I think really when the deviations are this far from what the ordinance allows, there really should be some more detailed municipal land use law type testimony, focusing in on just exactly what the positive and negative criteria seek to achieve for this kind of a variance. And I understand they're bulk variances, but I think the testimony really should be more focused on the property and why compliance can't be achieved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll of course answer any questions that you, the board, or the applicants might have.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Costa, any input from you on this application?
Yeah, just maybe very quickly. And Steve, in my package, I didn't, maybe you have it in yours. Was there a survey that was given to the to Tom? Because I just
No,
see,
we just have
all I
his hand
see is
drill.
a piece of paper, but it's
Yep.
not a survey, so I'm not sure how you get a variance.
Not a survey, the dimensions on it, or who knows what. Yeah,
Yeah,
didn't wanna
that's the
get
only
that
thing I would say
technical.
to the board. I
There,
just
there
noticed
was
that
a
just now.
survey presented to,
What's
with
that?
the application. There was a survey provided with the application.
Okay, it's not in, for whatever reason, it's not in my package.
Not in your package. Rob.
Yeah, I have a copy of it.
I'll
There's-
try and pull it up on the screen.
Yeah, there was a survey submitted from Brooker Engineering PLLC with a date of October 6, 2017.
I think I'll be able to share my screen 1 second. Okay, can you see that survey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the survey we all have in our pack. Rob, you see it now?
Yeah, no, I have it, Chairman. I mean, the only thing I would say is I think this information needs to get superimposed on the survey. That would be my only opinion. And again, if the board does grant it, obviously with all the additional impervious area that's being requested, they're gonna have to do drainage and drainage calculations with this.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Let me open it to the board for questions. Let's start with Mr. Mayor, if you would.
Yeah, I have the same concerns that are that were voiced by Steve, our land use expert, and we as a council typically do not go past 40% of approved lot coverage. This is 48.5. I guess my question would also be why 3 decks are necessary and why the added walkway. And I don't know how much. I don't know if the applicant is interested in diminishing their proposal. So I guess I would like the applicant to give us an idea of what they think of the comments that have already been offered by our professionals. And are they open to trying to find some sort of reduction in permeable coverage that would bring it more in line with what this board has historically done, which is 40%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor. Mr. Cray.
Yeah, a couple of questions. One, from looking at the drawing and the plans on the decks, the pool, I know there's the borough's policies, to consider above ground pools as temporary structures, but with the kind of integration with the decks and the other site plans here, I'm assuming you're really looking at this pool as being a permanent structure there, correct?
So the average lifespan of the above ground pool that we understand is about 15 years. At that point, our kids will be grown. The pool deck that we're seeking to create is about 60 square feet. So I envision at that time, when the above ground pool has outlived its lifespan, we'd probably remove the above ground pool, and that deck structure that we have, we can close off with a railing or remove that particular deck structure.
So for the next 15 years or so, we can assume that that pool and deck will be there.
Yes.
So, and so if we considered that as part of, again, of your kind of permanent installation, then we'd actually be up closer to 52% almost of coverage. Another question for you, I mean, the planner kind of touched on it. Part of the criteria for reviewing and accepting the variances is that there's some public benefit from the work that's being done. Is there anything you can identify within what you're doing that translates into a public benefit as opposed to something that's going to enhance your personal lifestyle?
Public benefit, as does that also include our neighbors' children coming over to help to play with our children, or is it in regards to our family? We have a lot of extended family who live nearby who visit as well.
I'm not sure I'd go as far as calling that a public benefit.
I would public benefit would be it would improve the value of the property, which would be intrinsic benefit to all the surrounding properties by us.
Okay. And again, some of the comments, I guess I want to understand specifically, like the location of the shed all the way in the back of the property. Is there any willingness to consider moving that to, kind of adjacent to where the egress window is shown on this so that you can, cut out that extended walkway there? Is there any look at the second level of the deck that's 11 by 22 and maybe, turn that just into extended stairways or something? I mean, can you see places here where you can start to reduce some of the coverage so that we can, kind of get it to a level where we might consider it as being acceptable?
Certainly, we're more than willing to work on reducing the lot coverage percentages. With regards to the shed, the shed is placed there due to setbacks that are required from the property lines, which I was informed of. A shed would not fit anywhere else along that northern border of the property. And the reason we would not be able to put a shed on the south side by the deck is we didn't want to create an obstruction there. We wanted that to be an open yard where we could easily see our children play, which is why we put the shed where it was on the northern side.
No more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cray. Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, I'm struggling with it because I feel that the objectives that you're trying to reach are appropriate and positive. And I don't think anyone, well, I won't speak for the whole board, but my sense is that I don't think the problem with your application is in the purposes of it or the objectives that you're trying to achieve. But I think there's a flaw in the application in that it's just too far beyond what the board typically tries to accommodate in applications. I mean, I haven't been with the board a long time, but in what I've seen, sometimes people come in a little bit more, a little bit less than what is typically allowed. And then there's some flexibility in trying to work something out. But this is way beyond. And, so I think that's a problem that you're going to have to figure out how to deal with. And I guess the question that I have for you is whether you are aware of any other property in the immediate vicinity of your house that has similar types of structures or similar type of plan that compares to what you're trying to do. Something where you can maybe point to someone else and say, well, they've done pretty much the same thing that we're asking to do. If you're aware of anything like that in your area.
Our immediate neighbor to the north of us has a similar size property. They have a deck that is similar in size to what we propose, and they also have a shed as well in a similar location on the northern rear of the yard. The only difference between our property and theirs is that they do not have a above ground pool.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pfeffer. Mr. Esposito?
Yeah, I'm just having difficulty thinking about the size of what's going to happen. I haven't seen none of that really for the last couple of years I've been here. And I just think we need to get it together and, make it a little bit softer and less so that we can get things moving. But I just think it's too much at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Esposito. Mr. Councilman?
Thank you, Chairman. Look, I echo everybody else's concerns. And I just want to remind everybody something that I know you already know. The 40% number that we've been dealing with, that's like the absolute most. When we had people coming in earlier this summer and asking us for variance for a couple of percentage points over the 40, we said, no, 35 is really where we're at, but we will consider anything up to 40 for good reasons. And we made those people who got us up to 40% give us reasons such as, well, I'm improving the look of the property in its front so that it looks better to the neighborhood, and therefore the whole neighborhood becomes a little bit better. That's the kind of benefit, public benefit that we're talking about. Of course, benefit to the neighbors, we understand that's a benefit, but that's not really a public benefit. It's not that everybody in the neighborhood or in town is going to be coming over to your place and using the pool, although you may be welcoming and you may not mind that, but that's not really what we're focusing on. So, the thought process here has to be, and I would respectfully suggest to you, and you decide what you do, but I think maybe what you might want to consider is redoing this application, keeping in mind that what we've allowed in the past is nothing more than 40% of this lot coverage, and that is the gift that the board gives over the 35%. And there's a reason for these things, and it's a reason that River Edge is a town that people want to move into and they want to spend money moving into. It is not a urban town, so to speak. It is very suburban, and we want to keep that kind of look and feel in our town. So, maybe, and you said it from the beginning, that you'd be willing to consider making changes, and I think everybody on the board very much appreciates your openness and your recognition. But the 48% number that you list here, which doesn't even include the pool, which it may be a temporary structure, but I think 15 years is pretty permanent in everybody's minds. When you're looking at over 50% of lot coverage, that's not something that in good faith I think anybody on this board can vote for, even though we'd like to help you guys out and do right by you. But I don't believe that it is something that in good faith we can even consider because we have turned down other residents in town, and it would not be fair to them, and we've had to make them go back and redo their drawings and rework with their architects and resubmit things to us and come back before us. So if you can make it work out in that 40% and under category, I'm sure the board would be more than willing to work with you and consider anything that you bring it. But at 48.5 or 52%, as Mr. Cray pointed out earlier, I think that's a non-starter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Merman?
Just a couple of quick comments. I will note for the record that this is a very large lot. While we're dealing with percentages, a large lot benefits the applicant. And we're looking at about, I believe, 8,160 square feet thereabouts. So that kind of affects the lot itself and how much you can improve it. I do wholeheartedly agree with the mayor who echoed and pointed out the comments of our planner tonight. And likewise, the other board members, I feel the same. I echo again their comments. And my personal maximum is in the neighborhood of 40%. Based on all that you've heard tonight, I strongly suggest that you go back, revisit your application, and try to bring it in at what's been suggested to you, some ways around the neighborhood of 40% or less. And that's basically the summary of my concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. Without restating everything that's been said already, I share all the sentiments that have been expressed this evening as well. Certainly, the scale is an issue, as you've heard. So I would strongly recommend that you consider scaling back what you're looking to do here. At this time, we will open to the public for comment, questions. May I have a motion to open to the public, please?
So moved.
Mr. Cray, thank you. You have a second?
Second, Merman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstained? Okay, at this time, we are now open to the public, and I believe we do have members of the public who are looking to speak this evening.
So I believe I just allowed Cheryl Sage to speak, and if anyone else has a question, just raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak after.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
We just ask that you state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address for the record before stating your comment, please.
It's Cheryl Sage and Yvonne Wolf, 379 Fifth Avenue, River Edge, New Jersey, 07661.
Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
Good evening. Just wanted to state that I'm not sure if anybody from the board has even been out to see the property because there's not a lot of room back there. We live above them and the house is so big that they're looking right into our family room and the deck is going to be right near her living room, and the privacy and light and everything else has been taken away from us since they built this huge house. I'm wondering if they can put in some kind of plants along the back with green giants or something to give us back the privacy that we had before. I have some concerns about the huge deck and the seating area, which is going to be quite close to our property and the shed. And the floodlights that they have attached to their house, which will be shining right into our backyard. I'm very concerned about this application for the large decks and pool, which is supposed to not be a permanent structure, but 15 years, like you said, is an awful long time. And it's really of no benefit to us, or I don't think any of the neighbors around it would suggest that somebody or the board or somebody come out and look at the property and how much room there actually is back there. I did hear them also say that the lot is they have a large extended family, which could potentially mean parties and more loud noise. This is the River Edge. It's always been a quiet neighborhood and it's been very peaceful. And I'm not sure that is in anybody's best interest, but that's what I have to say. I just wanted to find out too we had to put up shutters and keep them shut pretty much of the time anymore since there is no light and all we see is their windows. There's no privacy anymore. I just wanted to find out about those, what are those holding tanks for, I'm not sure what it is, something tech? I'm looking at these plans here. I'm not sure about the tech, whatever that is. It's Poltec chambers. I'm not really sure what that is.
Are you talking seepage pits?
Yeah, what are they?
Those are chambers designed to collect stormwater runoff.
Oh, okay. And the fences have to be how far? They have a retaining wall in the back, but how far from the property?
I'm sorry, I don't think you're talking about our property. I think you're talking about the new construction that is happening down the street at 380 to or Valley Road. We don't have a retaining wall, and our property is very private. We cannot see into anyone's yard from where we are.
We're about 5 houses over from you on Valley Road.
364, we're 379. You're not even part of that property?
No, we are, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, about 4 houses down from Fifth Avenue. The Fifth Avenue neighbors that we have are 363 and 367 Valley Road.
So you're not almost to the corner property like we are?
No, that is not our property.
That's not, the new house that they're building is not your property?
No, this house has been existing for 4 years now.
Okay, then how do I address what I need to address here then? Property behind us.
This is an application that relates to 364 Valley Road. If you have concerns with regard to 382 Valley Road, then I would suggest you can contact the borough to address any concerns that you may have. Mr. Mayor, who would the building official be the best person, I believe, to direct their questions to?
Yes, the building official with a carbon copy to the business administrator, Lizette Apatola.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
That's who I would address it to. Okay.
No, you would address it to Bob Burns, our building official, which you can find on the website. And then you would, if you send an email, or if you send a regular letter, or if you stop by, you may also include a CC to the business administrator, Lizette Apatola, but it would be to the building official.
Okay, I apologize for this, but I did have some concerns, even though it's the wrong house. So I will do that. I really appreciate your time and apologize to our neighbors down the street.
No problem.
No problem. We were confused because we know our neighbors behind us and to the sides of us and the front of us. So anyway, nice to meet you.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sage. Have a good night.
Before you leave, Ms. Sage, are you still there?
Yes. Yes.
201-599-6322. 201-599-6322.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I will be in touch. Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have anyone else, Ms. Kaufman, in the audience?
So if anyone else has a question, just raise your hand and I'll allow you to speak or a comment, either or.
Doesn't look like anyone has a comment.
I think that's correct. No one has a question.
Okay. That being said, excuse me. May I have a motion to close to the public, please?
So made, Merman.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, we are now closed to the public.
Did the applicant have any response to any of the board questions, or if they wanted to make any changes to their
Yes.
application today, or?
Sure. We definitely realized that this was much more than could get approved, and we do have backup plans drawn. We are more than willing to share the information with you at the current moment, if that's possible. Also, I know the mayor had a question about the shed. I think we answered it in the regards to we couldn't put at the side of the house because of the distance from our property line. And the other reason also that we couldn't move it over to the other side of the house is because the grading of the property goes up a lot. And if we were to dig into the ground, well, the grading, our contractor told us it wouldn't be stable there. So that's why we picked that corner of the house specifically. But is it okay for us to present our backup at the moment?
Well, I think do we not need to have that submitted along with the application for the public to review, Marina?
Well, is it a completely different plan, or are you just removing some sections of the plan that was submitted?
Correct, removing some sections and just making some things smaller.
Yeah, just making it narrower and make the shed smaller. And I think that the walkway
It's
is.
gonna remove the walkway, and make the deck, the deck, physically, it would still be multi-tier, but the proportions of the deck would be smaller.
Just big enough to hold our, patio table, and then just so that we can still make it graded so that the steps are gradual, but make it narrower, basically.
I mean, I think that is fine to request smaller variances than what was originally presented. If it's asking for different relief, that would be a different story, but since it's just smaller versions of what was presented and noticed, I think that's okay. But it's up to the board if they want to hear that tonight.
Will we have the actual measurements and the numbers and the percentages to consider now?
Yes, I can give those right now if you'd like.
So do you have it on, could you present it on the screen, or do you just have it?
Yes, I could probably do that.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
My thought process is that we should probably have these drawings resubmitted and provided to us so that we can look them over and think about everything and make sure that everything's in conformity, and we can have our attorneys and our professionals look at these things before we review them. Because it sounds like there's some substantial changes. We want to help you and make it happen, but I don't think that tonight is the time to do it. But
Yeah,
I'll defer to everybody else as well.
No, I concur with you, Councilman. That's kind of where I was heading. I think what my recommendation would be, subject to the board's approval, would be to carry this, allow the applicant the opportunity to revise their drawings and what they're looking for, and resubmit that for consideration. And to the councilman's point, to allow the planner and other professionals to review the submissions. And certainly, just, you've heard this evening the board's position on the current application, and we do want to try to work with you, but there are some substantive revisions that need to be considered on your part. So my recommendation at this point would be to carry this and allow you the opportunity to go back and reconsider your proposal.
May I ask, does that require going through the whole process again, including mailing all of our neighbors?
No.
No,
we would carry it. We would allow, what we'll do is this evening, effectively, we won't take any action on the application that you've submitted. But what we'll do is we'll agree to what's called carry it. In other words, we'll put it on for a hearing at a later meeting. And in that time frame, give you the opportunity to revise your plans and resubmit those for consideration. And that exchange would allow us the opportunity to review it. We wouldn't have to go back and renotice. But Marina can explain the details that we would ask you to waive certain time constraints for us to act. And Marina, I'll let you explain that.
Yep, so the board has an obligation to make a decision within a certain time period. But since we're requesting that you come back with the revised plans, we just ask that you waive any and all timeframes for the board to act on the application until the subsequent meeting date. That's okay.
Is that acceptable? Okay.
That's acceptable.
Mr. Castleton?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, just so that they're not blindsided, I would want their revised plan to include the above ground pool, or at least numbers without the above ground pool and numbers with the above ground pool, because if the structure is going to be up for 15 years as testified, then it should be considered permanent coverage and therefore part of the number. But if they want to submit it as two different numbers and calculations for improved lot coverage, I have no objection to that, but it has to be, it has to be, I think it has to be a part of whatever they present.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion to carry this application.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, but I will note that the carrying date, as Ed Walter noted earlier, application, I believe was the 22nd of September.
I think
22nd of September.
25th?
Our mom's birthday.
22.
22, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So my motion will state that this application be carried so that the applicant can make revisions to the plan and submit it to the board in time for the September 22nd meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Merman. Second from Councilman Kenigo. Marina?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay, the application will be carried to the September 22nd, 2021 meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Mr. and Mrs. Kumarasamy, I pronounced that correct. This is a good chance for you to go back, reconsider things. If you have any questions, about, meeting the criteria, strongly urge that you reach out to our planner and raise any questions you may have with them. They're here to offer some guidance in trying to comply with the municipal land use law. And Steve is kindly stepping in this evening for our regular borough planner, Tom Behrens, but either Steve or Tom, I would imagine, would be readily available to answer any questions you may have.
We've actually had extensive discussions with Tom. So that's why we have the backup plans, but we're happy to send it out so everyone can review it before the next meeting.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we have no old business. Nothing else this evening. Anything else from anybody on the board? Okay. That said, I would like to entertain a motion to close the meeting.
No. I'll make such a motion gladly.
I'd like to second
Second.
Mr. Merman's.
Second.
Thank
Craig.
you, Mr. Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time this evening, even with the technical glitches. Stay safe out there. Steve, appreciate your participation. It was very nice having you along this evening. And everyone have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.